Welcome back to a brand new explainer. Get ready because today we're tearing down the walls of a global fast food icon to demystify the financial engine and the gritty, everyday realities of running a massive fried chicken franchise. If you've ever sat in a drive-thru, smelled that incredible blend of 11 secret herbs and spices, or realized they sell well over 1 billion pieces of chicken every year and kind of wondered about the actual business mechanics operating behind those fryers, well, you're in the exact right place. We're going to break down the balance sheet of the bucket.
So we're coming right out of the gate with the big, burning question. How much does a franchise actually make? We all see the packed drive-thrus, those glowing signs dominating the highway, the constant, never-ending stream of hungry customers. Looking at all that volume, it's incredibly easy to just assume the owner of that local fried chicken joint is literally printing money in the back room. But I want you to look past the crispy chicken for a second. We really need to look at the math to understand the actual money-making machine operating here.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the undeniable stark contrast between gross revenue and net profit. Gross revenue is that massive top-line money coming in. It's literally every single dollar handed over the counter or swiped at the kiosk. And yeah, it looks like a huge, intimidating number. But the net profit, which is the surprisingly tiny slice the franchise owner actually gets to keep at the end of the day, is drastically smaller. The journey from that massive gross number down to that tiny net number, it's a fascinating, high-stakes tightrope walk.
Okay, let's dive right into this. First, we'll look at the brand's golden allure. Second, the cost of frying. Third, those finger-licking revenue streams. And finally, the final bottom line. Starting with Section 1, the brand's golden allure and its built-in customer trust. See, when a franchisee signs on the dotted line, they aren't just buying a recipe, right? They are buying into a massive cultural and financial footprint. We are talking about a global fried chicken empire. And why is this so utterly critical to the economics? Well, because instant brand recognition and global allure drive continuous, guaranteed customer footfall. You don't have to spend years explaining to the public what your restaurant sells. You pop up that iconic red and white sign, and the trust is just already built in. This cultural footprint is absolutely the essential, foundational layer of the entire revenue engine. Honestly, without that built-in demand, surviving in the restaurant industry is nearly impossible. Moving on to Section 2, the cost of frying, a harsh reality check. Let's walk through the actual chronological journey of a franchisee. Step 1 is the initial investment. And wow, before you even sell a single chicken wing, you need incredibly deep pockets. Securing premium commercial real estate, constructing the building to exact corporate specs, installing highly specialized kitchen equipment. That can easily run into the millions before a single piece of chicken drops in the fryer. Then, Step 2, franchise fees. You're paying a hefty upfront premium just for the legal right to use the corporate name and their proprietary systems. So by the time we hit Step 3, opening day, the franchisee has already taken on a massive financial burden. That upfront cost is deeply personal, it's incredibly risky, and it takes years, if not decades, to actually pay off. And this brilliantly illustrates how that builds into daily operations. Just imagine a standard $20 family bucket of chicken. The very second that $20 hits the register, 35% goes straight to labor, your cooks, cashiers, store managers. Another 30% goes to the chicken and raw ingredients, which, by the way, are highly sensitive to supply chain inflation. 20% pays for the real estate, covering that prime highway location. And finally, 15% flows right back to corporate headquarters as franchise fees. Boom. Suddenly, your $20 bill has been carved down to crumbs. A massive portion of this is what we call overhead. Overhead represents the ongoing, unavoidable costs of running a business. Think rent, utilities, insurance, administrative stuff. Let me translate that financial jargon into conversational reality for a second. Whether your location sells 1,000 buckets of chicken on a super busy Saturday or almost 0 buckets during a total snowstorm, your overhead costs are still draining your gross revenue. Those commercial freezers, they still draw massive amounts of electricity. The rent, still due on the first of the month. Overhead is a continuous drain, and it never, ever sleeps. Let's pivot to Section 3, finger-lickin' revenue streams, balancing the sheet. Okay, so on the money inside, we've got sales volume and meal deals. On the money outside, as we just covered, we have royalty fees and operational costs. To keep this whole thing balanced, high-volume sales are strictly necessary. You absolutely cannot survive selling just a few items a day. Also, pay attention to meal deals. Franchisees really have to push these strategic combos. Why? Because while the chicken protein itself is super expensive to procure, the soda and the fries, they have incredibly high profit margins.
Bundling them together is exactly how the franchisee outpaces the ongoing royalty fees. It's this intricate dance of strategically driving up the average ticket price for every single car in that drive-thru. So the crucial point is understanding EBITDA. That stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. I know, it sounds like a mouthful, but it essentially strips away the accounting magic and tells the owner the only thing that actually matters. Are my fryers, my team, and my chicken actually making money from our daily operations alone? It completely removes the loan interest and the tax man, bringing everything right down to the absolute operational pulse of the business. And that brings us to Section 4, the final bottom line, razor-thin margins. So here's the reality check. The actual margin a franchisee takes home as pure profit is remarkably small. We're talking mid to low single digits most of the time. Fast food is not a business of giant margins per transaction. Not at all. It is entirely about selling millions upon millions of pieces of chicken. Relentless volume and absolute, unforgiving efficiency are the true lifeblood of the modern franchise. Because the margins are so razor thin, a single dropped tray of chicken, a freezer breaking down overnight, or even just overstaffing the kitchen on a slow Tuesday, any of that can literally wipe out the net profit for the entire week. The stark reality of this empire is a fascinating paradox. Immense scale driven by microscopic penny-pinching margins. Next time you pull up to that drive-thru window and hand over your credit card for a meal deal, you're going to know exactly what happens behind the scenes. You know that every single cent of your money is instantly divided up between corporate royalties, commercial real estate, supply chain vendors, and the teenager handing you your bag, leaving just a few precarious pennies of profit for the owner.
Which leaves us with a provocative final question to wrap up our explainer today. What does the future hold for the fast food franchise model? With global labor costs steadily rising and agricultural supply chains becoming increasingly unpredictable and expensive, how are these razor-thin balance sheets going to evolve to survive? Will automation completely take over the fryers? Will menu prices just have to skyrocket? It's a super complex, fascinating financial puzzle. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep analyzing the world around you, and I will see you next time.